So you want to be happy. Why? Why do you want to be happy? You know, happiness is something that we've been trying to figure out since the dawn of time, really. The ancient Greeks loved to think about happiness. In fact, it was Aristotle who said that happiness is the only goal we pursue as an end in itself and not as a means to something else. In the East, contemplative traditions like Buddhism have concerned themselves for thousands of years with happiness and suffering. And in the last few decades, scientists have taken a greater interest with a new wave of happiness and positive psychology research. And, you know, this takes me back to a talk I came across years ago. But first, I have a small confession to make. I am not a Zen monk. I know it's a bit of an interesting outfit choice. There you go. You get a car. You get a car. No, you can keep that. If you have any singles, I can, yeah. No. So in this talk, Matthew Ricard shared a fundamentally different view of happiness. That happiness wasn't to be found in more money or more achievement or more pleasure. No. Rather, it's a matter of mental training. That just like Olympic athletes train the body, we can train the mind and heart with the habits of happiness. Now, hearing this as an 18-year-old kid, I wasn't on the best of trajectories. I was super self-conscious, kind of anxious, always trying to be like a, better, higher achieving, more attractive. I was pretty much an egomaniac. I was kind of just an a-hole. I have one high school friend who he just nodded, so I'm getting something right. And I was also kind of looking for happiness in all the wrong places. I was drinking, I was smoking, I was abusing oxycodone. It wasn't a great trajectory. And hearing this talk was a perspective that changed everything for me. And it set me on a journey that has become my life's work, which is studying and teaching happiness. You see, there are hundreds of books on happiness, and I've read them. Okay, probably not all of them, but these are some of my favorites. I did research and taught the first happiness course at the University of Alabama. As I shared, I went on to live for 4 months as a Zen monk, studying their way of happiness. That was one of the most influential chapters in my journey. I also created what might be the world's first major in happiness. That's right, I literally majored in happiness. Yes, that's a fun conversation to have with your parents. By the way, you can imagine, tuition's a bit expensive. They're like, what are the job prospects there? I heard someone say none, thank you. Well, apparently there are some, because I'm here. And I also run 2 companies bringing happiness research into organizations. One supports businesses and education, the other military and first responders. I was also inspired by Josh Kaufman's personal MBA to launch what I call the Happiness PhD Project. This is an independent learning and education initiative dedicated to the art and science of happiness. And I tell you all this because today I want to take all this and tell you what I've learned, the how of happiness and why it matters. So what did I learn living as a monk, majoring in happiness, studying for all these years? Well, let's start with, what is happiness? You see, it turns out happiness is a lot like cake. You know, you've probably thought of this, I know already. It's pretty obvious, right? No? You see, like cake, happiness is really evidence of something else. It's evidence of a certain recipe, certain ingredients, certain actions. Like cake, sure, everyone has their own tastes and preferences, but the key ingredients are largely the same. There's just 3 of them. A simple recipe for happiness. And I'll share that with you in about 8 minutes. First, we need to ask why. Why happiness? Why does it matter? Because listen, happiness isn't just nice, it's useful. It's important for you and for the world. Consider our 3 main social institutions: education, organizations, and government. Happiness improves education. Tal Ben-Shahar's Happier Schools program is one of several positive educational interventions. His program is designed to help entire school communities be happier, and evaluations show participation in the program leads to improved mental health, increased optimism and self-esteem, and improved academic achievement with higher GPA. In higher education, Dr. Laurie Santos has a course on the science of well-being at Yale. It became the most popular course in school history, and studies have shown positive effects in students which persisted even after the course. Happiness improves organizations. Oxford University found happy workers are 13% more productive. Research from the University of Pennsylvania showed that bringing positive psychology and positive traits into organizations improves employee performance. And even in the stock market, we can measure the impact. Arthur Brooks runs the Happiness and Leadership Lab here at Harvard, and they shared insights from one investment research firm. One of their funds is Happy, H-A-P-I. They create funds to invest in happier companies, and those funds outperform the market. Finally, it may surprise you that even in our armed forces, this is true. A study of nearly 1 million soldiers showed those who are happier are higher performing and more heroic. Happiness improves government policy. Now, when we think about politics right now, maybe happiness is not necessarily the first word that comes to mind. Is that fair? But it's true, there's been progress. Through vehicles like the WOHASU World Wellbeing Policy Forum, leaders and thinkers have argued that true progress means more than just economic growth, that standard of living is not the same thing as quality of life. And now the 38 member nations of the OECD agree that well-being should be an explicit measure of policy effectiveness. In education, organizations, and government policy, happiness matters. And ladies and gentlemen, that's wonderful, but I have to say we're facing a crisis. Because yes, we see it matters, but we're losing it. Here's data from the US showing some happiness trends. We see happiness in the US continues to decline with multiple record lows in the last 20 years. And this is not just a US problem, it's a global problem. And it's driven in large part by a crisis facing our young people. Jonathan Haidt is a social psychologist who has analyzed a wealth of research to show that young people are less happy than ever before. Here we see data from several European countries showing this trend with life satisfaction and depression across the lifespan. In fact, in 2023, the CDC reported that 20% of students had seriously considered suicide, and 9% of students had actually attempted suicide. beyond just the crisis facing our young people, we see startling trends that researchers are calling deaths of despair, that for many demographics, life expectancy is actually decreasing. And that's due primarily to suicide, drug overdose, and alcohol-related liver disease. These are really deaths of unhappiness. So what do we do about this? How do we take back our happiness? Maybe I'll make that personal. How do you find happiness? Ladies and gentlemen, I want to give you something today, something you can take home with you that's simple, effective, and will help you to be happier for the rest of your life. Would you like that? Some of you are nodding. Some of you are unsure. Okay. Because I can leave. Happiness is learned. You see, this is the gift of an idea, and ideas change everything. Through study and practice, we learn happiness. No matter what your baseline is, high or low, you can improve. Now, when I first set out to give a TEDx talk on happiness, I didn't think I'd talk so damn much about cakes. But here we go. If you wanted to get really good at baking cake, what would you do? Well, you'd first have to study, right? You have to actually acquire knowledge with maybe a recipe, maybe a video, maybe a baking class. But that's not enough, is it? You see, if I'm sitting on the couch watching the British Bake Off on television and someone says, hey, Jackson, what are you doing? I wouldn't say, please, I'm trying to bake a cake in here. No, you actually have to take that knowledge and put it into practice. Take the ingredients out, mix them up, put it in the oven, and as you do this over and over and over again, you get pretty good at baking cakes. Happiness is no different. You see, this is a perspective that's supported by spiritual and contemplative traditions like Buddhism and modern science. It's this beautiful intersection of ancient contemplative wisdom and modern research. One such perspective on this comes from Dr. Richie Davidson. He has a construct titled The Plasticity of Well-Being. The name says it all, that well-being itself is pliable. It can be easily shaped and molded because if you know the causes and skills of happiness and well-being, and then you cultivate those causes and skills, your happiness and well-being flourish. So this takes me back to that simple recipe. 3 ingredients I promised you earlier. So, there are dozens of psychological models and constructs of happiness, but I think they all come down to a simple checklist. BPR. Biology, psychology, and relationships. You see, if you have physical health with exercise, plenty of sleep, and good nutrition, you have mental health with mostly positive thoughts, beliefs, and emotions, and you have relationship health with love and social connection. If you have all those things, you almost can't help but be happy. So forget about happiness. Happiness is a waste of time. Bet you didn't think I'd say that today. Don't focus on happiness, focus on the ingredients for happiness. Don't pursue happiness, pursue the ingredients for happiness. Study and practice those each and every day. So this talk itself can be the study part. Let me give you a practice. Simple, easy. So it'll take you 15 minutes each day. Now I know some of you type A people are saying, Jax, I don't have 15 minutes. Are you crazy? Listen, if you don't have 15 minutes for your happiness, you don't have a life. All right? So 15 minutes. You say biology first. You're going to do 10 minutes of moderate intensity physical exercise. So, maybe that's like a workout video in your living room, maybe a jog around the block, whatever. Multiple studies show that regular exercise is as effective as prescription antidepressants. Psychology next. Research out of Stanford University showed that just breathing a certain way for a few minutes every day improves your mood and reduces anxiety. It's called a physiological sigh. You breathe in through the nose, take a second double inhale at the top, and then you slowly sigh out about twice as long as you breathe in. I saw a couple of you happiness overachievers already doing it. Let's do one together, shall we? So, breathe in through the nose, second double at the top, and then slow, about twice as long. Lovely, isn't it? You can feel it in the room. Now, give me like 30 more seconds because you've got relationships. Do something to invest in a relationship. The Grant study of adult development here at Harvard showed the quality of your relationships determines the quality of your life, period. So do something to nurture a relationship. It can be with someone you care about, or it could even be like a stranger or a colleague, maybe a chat, a compliment, an act of kindness. There's research that even those micro interactions of pro-social behavior, those too bring happiness. So what'd you just do? In 15 minutes, you didn't leave your happiness to chance. You took the ingredients and put them to use. You studied and practiced life's most important subject. And if that makes you 1% happier every day, just 1% with 15 minutes, look at what this does for your happiness in 75 days. That's compounding. You'd literally be twice as happy. It's worth it. I even put the equation up there. You can plug it in, you type A skeptical people like me. Okay. Happiness is learned. Study and practice the ingredients for happiness. And as you do, go out and spread ripples. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope I've given you an idea today that really can change everything for you. And my question for you now is, what are you going to do with it? Because this talk is for you, yes, but it's also for the world. I mean, what if we all did this? What if we brought this into our lives and into our world's institutions, education, organizations, and government policy? Well, we've already seen what can happen. Healthier, higher achieving students, more productive and effective organizations, and better government policy that really is for the people. That's happiness for one and for all. That's hope for humanity. That's a better life for you and a better future for all of us. Thank you.